What is the connecting part between two bones?
What substance would farmers spread into the soil in order to make plants grow more successfully?
What do we call the people who move from one country to another country, usually for work or a better life?
What is a person called whose job is to write news for newspapers?
What is the large, flat surface that films are shown on?
What is another way to say music turn?
What is in the opposite direction from the head? What is the scientific study of rocks?
What do we call the line between a sunset and the sea?
Where do we make our cars?
What is the final step of a bakery?
What do we call the generator in an aeroplane?
What do we call a place where people live permanently?
What includes everything in the world such as stars and planets?
What do we call a room just below the roof of a house, often used for storing things?
If a student fails to show up in a class because of illness, how do we describe it?
What do we describe the space with no air in it?
How many sides of a peninsula are surrounded by water?
When a runner runs, what is this state of breathing?
What do we call the voting system where all people can give only one suggestion?
Who serves and helps passengers in a plane?
What is the name of rugby sportswear?
What do we call a fear of large and open space?
What do we call the device with two or more blades turning quickly to cause a ship or an airplane to move?
What part of the room is over your head?
What does a guitarist pluck when playing the instrument?
What drink do people get from cows?
What do we call the head of a university department?
What do you get if you successfully complete a university course?
If you ask someone how old they are, what do you want to know?
What do you use to call or text a friend?
What do you call the type of political system that is said to be of the people, by the people and for the people? What do you call the part of the theatre where actors perform?
Which is the season of the year when plants start growing again?
What color do you get if you mix red and yellow?
What do we call a person whose job is cutting up and selling meat?
What do we call a person who attacks and robs ships at sea?
What is the opposite of multiple?
What device is used for breathing?
What do we call a device that cuts grass?
What does MBA stand for?
What do we call a player who is going to replace another one on the field?
What do we call a large notice or picture sticked on a wall?
What flight starts in a country and ends in the same country?
What do we call learning a lot of things in a short time in preparation for an exam?
What is the electronic device whose function is about the arithmetic of numbers?
What do we call a bicycle with 2 seats and 2 pairs of handles?
What is the mark used to show that one or more letters have been left out?
What is the psychology fear after an accident called?
What do you call the facts, signs or objects that make you believe something is true?
What do we call a book listing acronyms?
What do we call a child who will soon be a teenager?
Where are goods stored before sale? There is a kind of word, such as UN represents for the United Nations. What do we call this kind of word?
What do we call a person getting a higher position in a company?
Whose job is working on the boat?
What do you call someone with no hair?
What do we call the pen that receives its ink from its reservoir?
Which part of our bodies do we use the nasal spray in?
How do we call the movements that the baby moves their legs and hands?
What kind of things that postgraduates have while undergraduates don't have?
How often one thing does happen if we say it happened annually?
Which part of our body relates to the gastro?